the Arab world's pretty much unanimous desire and goal to get rid of the Jews has hit some blocks in the last couple of years since what was perhaps their greatest moment, certainly the greatest achievement of the Exterminate the Jews movement since the Holocaust on October 7th, when the Palestinian people killed 1,200 Israelis. It took 251 hostages. Th- they've been struggling. Things didn't work out like they thought they might. The celebrations of that day have quickly turned to something else. And we talked a couple of days ago about Egypt's desire to do it themselves and their hopes and perhaps their plans to go to war with Israel when the time comes that they are comfortable with their chances of success. But Egypt is not going to delude themselves too much that they can do it alone. They've been burnt in the past, and so Egypt is also working on creating. Well, they've revived the idea of creating a sort of Arab NATO, some sort of military alliance by Arab countries in the Middle East. That military alliance could have one goal and one goal only, which is, we've all tried to kill the Jews separately on, separate occasions a few times together. It's never really worked. Let's do it in a more organized fashion. Uh, the trouble with this might be that Arabs might not hate each other as much as they hate the Jews, but they do hate each other. And like every super tribalistic, primitive cultures, chances are unity is not going to be a thing, much of a thing there. Remember, Egypt has had two coups in within a short period of time in the past 15 years or so. I don't remember exactly when the Arab Spring was. Uh, and Yeah, they're not the only ones. So it might be difficult, but should Israel assume that it's not going to be successful? Because again, Israel has also made the mistake in the past to think that it's safe. And yeah, what can we expect to see in the near future in this continued war that Arabs have waged on the Jews since even before the State of Israel was established? Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus, who, much like our other topics, finds this super amusing. Daniel.
No, for some reason, Alex started calling me twice in a row, but she said it was Badr both times, so I find it funny. But this idea is also funny. Again, the greatest idea since the creation of the Baath Party, which I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but yeah, this idea of creating a unified like Arab federation, and now the idea of creating united, or it wouldn't really be like NATO in the way they are talking about it. It would be more of what like EU is thinking of right now, sort of like creating some joint force to basically contribute to and then use if needed for something. With this one, apparently Egypt is committing or would be willing to assign 20,000 troops to it and would basically be part of the military high command and would give the second role to either Saudi Arabia or some other Gulf state. But as with the idea of the Arab Federation, this will of course fail because they hate each other. They might hate also Jews and might fight them around the same time. But as with the past, as with like the Six Day War or even the War of Independence by Israel, they fundamentally cannot work together because they hate each other. They do not want to work together. They do not want to be united. This is something that is giving advantage to Israel, but it's not uncommon because dictatorships fundamentally have to look at each other and be wary of each other because if one is becoming stronger, that is a threat to another. Israel is the only state that still tries to view the other states in the area as potential trade partners and views them as that well, with the exception of few like Iran, that basically if everybody just got along together, it would go better. And of course it would, but fundamentally these states do not want to modernize. They do not want to have a free society. Again, every single Middle Eastern nation you look at are fundamentally dictatorships. Al-Sisi has been ruler of Egypt for the decade at this point, since pretty much the coup, or the when the Muslim Brotherhood was sort of like, I guess, recouped back because they did a coup. Again, like, what is the again, when it comes to this alliance or this goal, will it form? I don't think so. Like, these nations hate each other way too much to create something cohesive like this, or something that would require basically
Maybe.
actual work together.
I mean, in a sense, they did work together in wars against Israel. I'm kind of wondering what happens if they actually win, if they actually get rid of the Jews.
Well,
Then there will be a war over, what used to be Israel. But of course, that's
Well, they attacked Israel at the same time. They didn't work together. The big reason why Israel was able to, they lied to each other during Six-Day War because they were afraid of, because they didn't want the other to win too much.
yeah. Well, let's read a bit of this article about this in the Times of Israel. The headline is Report Egypt reviving proposal for NATO-style Arab force to protect countries from attack. Egypt is looking to gain Arab nations' support for a NATO-style Arab force that would protect Arab countries facing attack, Lebanon's Al-Akhbar newspaper reports, citing an unnamed official in Cairo. The report notes the proposal was first made some 9 years ago, but did not advance. While the report does not say so outright, it suggests that Israel's recent strike on Hamas leaders in Qatar has given new impetus to the initiative. That's interesting. I mean, in the sense that Israel attacked Qatar in a similar way to the way that it supposedly attacked, as we talked yesterday when we saw that introduction of Israel's president, attacked Yemen, attacked Lebanon, Israel. Yeah, in the case of Qatar, nothing was fired directly from Qatar to Israel. So in that sense, you could say it's different from Lebanon, from Yemen, from Iraq, from Iran. Yeah, actually from Iran as well. It's different in that sense, but it's not in the sense that if you harbor terrorists, like if you hide a murderer in your house, you can't say, "Sorry, police, you're violating my property rights. You can't come to my property." So in that sense, there's no reason to believe that anybody actually believes this is to defend Arabs in case Israel attacks them, because Israel has never attacked the Arabs. It's always, with maybe the exception of 56, it's never gone on the offensive. It's always been the Arabs who started every single war and have lost every single war. So perhaps, again, perhaps they think this will be the change. And you know, as I said in my intro, I think Israel uh, shouldn't rely on the fact that they're not going to be able to work together. This is a serious threat to Israel, and Israel should consider its actions here. One thing Israel should always consider when dealing in Middle Eastern politics, as it does in international relations, is um, go on the offensive a bit more. Now, Israel has done amazing things since October 7th. But yeah, if this appears to be a thing, Israel has every right to do what it did in Syria when Al-Qaeda took over, which is destroy any ability, any offensive ability that military might have. Um, I don't know what exactly Israel can do in the case that Egypt and Saudi Arabia form an alliance. Both of them have bought America's allegiance, so that might be an issue, but it should be considered.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of like, of course, they won't say that the reason for forming this joint alliance was because of the Qatar, but obviously it comes right after it. But it's always like the world. thinks of Israel like it's Russia. That basically, if Ukraine wants to have, wants to join the EU, that is a threat to Russia, and that's why Russia intervened or attacked Ukraine, right? But that Israel doesn't care what other countries are doing. It's only intervenes where they actively harbor terrorists or they actively try to destroy the Israeli state. Again, the only reason why Israel has worries about Egypt specifically is one, weapons have been smuggled through the Egyptian border into Gaza, and two, they harbor Hamas terrorists. So again, and this is with every single one. Iran can ignore, or Israel would ignore Iran if Iran didn't continuously try to destroy Israel, continuously try to develop weapons to destroy Israel, fund different groups. At like every single group Iran can get their hands on, they're actively funding and giving them money to attack Israel. It's such a, but as you say, I think Israel needs to realize that there is nothing it can do to calm down these nations or to do something that would show them, no, we don't actually, I mean, Netanyahu goes to the UN, talks about how he wants to, he wants friendships with all these nations. He wants to establish this sort of like free strip going through the Middle East against the axis of terror. He signs the Abraham Accords. He normalizes relations with nations like United Arab Emirates, and encourages more trade and all that. And now you have United Arab Emirates saying, "No, you are going too far with fighting terrorism. So we might actually get rid of this deal. We might get rid of these free trade agreements, and might renege on sort of normalization." It's truly, I mean, fascinating how much we try to keep these dictatorships in power. Again, Egypt is getting foreign aid. I mean, every single dictatorship on the earth is probably getting some form of foreign aid from the West. Let these nations alone. Let them collapse. Let them go into anarchy, whatever. Let's stop. Keep trying to keep those dictatorships in power, because of course they, like, you cannot reform it. They would always use it uh, uh, to basically both oppress their people and oppress people around them. Dictatorships have no reason to want to reform if they are actively getting funding to oppress their people.
Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Israel uh, obviously has to watch what it does militarily against a country like Egypt, and certainly against Saudi Arabia. It can act uh, diplomatically, as in a sense, and on its own take the initiative of reconsidering the peace deal with Egypt. I would say that's kind of a basic thing. And once you do that, first of all, the first thing they should do is stop giving Egypt a pass on certain things that they are violating that peace agreement on. First and foremost, troops in Sinai, and yeah, you know, say to Egypt, look, this is now where we are. We are drawing the line here, and we will make sure that certain things are enforced, and if we have to, we'll enforce it ourselves. Look, Israel, right after October 7th, um, somebody in Israel, one of like somebody from the government, said to Egypt, if you send any fuel trucks into Gaza, we will bomb them, which was a very nice thing to say. Of course, Israel is now itself fueling and feeding Hamas. But back then, that sounded like a pretty clear message that wasn't very controversial. You cannot give fuel to our enemies during war. You also cannot do the things that you've done in the past when you were about to go to war, to start a war with us. So, yeah, draw the line in certain places, push back, and we've spoken about the obviously very wrong perception of Netanyahu as some sort of crazy warmonger, but since it exists, it should be played on, and it can be played on with things that would be easier to get away with. I don't know if another strike in Qatar. I think that's that I by the way, that's a topic that I was thinking we might have to do a whole show about, but I think now is the time for another strike in Qatar because of how it looks, because of the responses you get from countries like Egypt, like Turkey. Another statement like the statement Netanyahu made a few days ago, which was one of his best ever, about, we will hit them wherever they are. You cannot harbor terrorists. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are letting people get away with literal murder, with mass murder of our people, we will act where you won't to enforce the law to get those people. So yeah, I would very much encourage Israel to do what it can, even if it means not fully going to war before you know that's what's coming, and of course, fully prepare for that possibility.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to sort of the harboring of terrorists, again, we are not talking about some like created propaganda by Israel. Hamas is internationally recognized terrorist organization by pretty much every major power in the West. I'm not sure if Egypt itself recognizes it as a terrorist organization. But they've had their own dealings with the Muslim Brotherhood. They used to rule the country for a few years. So they do not like them. That's one of the big reasons why they do not want the Palestinians to actually get out. They do not want those people. The same thing with Jordan. Jordan doesn't really, I mean, they're kind of screwed since most of their, or a lot of their population are Palestinians. But whenever they are there, they're actually voting for the Muslim Brotherhood. If you check the last Jordanian election, Muslim Brotherhood had the plurality because of how much support it's getting from its Palestinian population. And Jordan is trying to be this sort of like pragmatic, we are pro-Western state, but for the same reason of like having this incredibly radicalized population, they are not able to do anything close to that. So again, it's pretty simple. Don't harbor Hamas terrorists, or in the past, don't harbor PLO, and nothing will happen to you. It's pretty easy to figure out what to do. But no, these nations do not actually care for some stability in the region or for some peace in the region. Like look at all the wars that happened in the Middle East. What percentage of those was Israel even part of? The war in Kuwait, the war between Iraq and Iran, the wars that Saudi Arabia was involved in, the Syrian civil war, like the other civil wars. Like, do you want to put all of that on Israel, the country of 10 million, or maybe the region itself is not stable because some other actors do not actually wish to have some sort of modern, stable region with some proper politics and philosophy behind it.
Yeah, right here says if Egypt attacks, there goes the Aswan Dam. I mean, I've heard Israeli politicians talk about if blah blah blah, we will bomb the Aswan Dam forever. And again, there was a war where Israel there it looked like it might, you know, be annihilated in 73 and they did nothing with the Aswan Dam. Now, even now when they're sending soldiers to die in Gaza to protect Palestinian civilians so that it isn't presented as if Israel kills civilians on purpose, which of course it still is. Um, when you see Israel going on any type of military action in any place where the terrorists or the soldiers or whatever aren't literally hiding behind children, Israel goes out of its way to avoid anybody who isn't an actual terrorist getting killed, to the point that if they move to the other room, if the terrorists move to the other room, they get away. We saw this in Qatar. We saw this in Iran, where military leaders were targeted in in apartment buildings where everybody who wasn't a terrorist got away. We see this in Yemen, where it's much more difficult for Israel to know who's who, but they still manage to avoid anything that's remotely civilian. In Egypt, Egypt has an army. It's going to be clear what the army is. If there is war with Egypt, I don't imagine that Israel will bomb the Aswan Dam. But as I've been saying on this channel since October 7th, I hope I'm wrong. I hope if Egypt does this, that the first thing to happen would be to make the civilians pay so that they stand up to the government that has brought them into this. And again, I hope that Israel, again, if it comes to it, reminds the world that it also is a nuclear power and can defend itself that way. It's not going to happen, but it should. If these countries attack, Israel shouldn't say, okay, we have a slight edge militarily, we'll lose thousands of soldiers and eventually we'll win. It should be, we're going to win on day one. We're going to bomb whatever we have to bomb to completely destroy not just the military, but the country that has decided to go to war with us. Two years after October 7th, we know Israel isn't doing this to Gaza, so it's not going to do it to Egypt. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Daniel.
It might or might not be a nuclear power, of course. But I mean, yeah, the big like here is the thing: like fighting a war. I mean, I was about to say it's easy. It's not easy. It's hard. But once you have a proper philosophy, it's easy to understand what needs to happen. It's easy to understand the enemy population, all of it, both its military, political, and the population are wanting of this war. And what you need to do is shut down completely this idea that this was a good idea. But because of how rotten the philosophy is in the West and what is expected, we have completely separated the population from its government. And Netanyahu is doing that too, right? It's we have to liberate, free Gaza from Hamas, as if those people do not want Hamas. So once you accept that, it's impossible to fight the war because you are automatically going against yourself. Every single civilian that therefore is on you if you do truly believe that they are completely separate from each other. But no, once you understand, and Israel was able to do it in the past. I mean, Six-Day War was an incredible. Like I cannot imagine like if ARCUK was on air that day. I cannot imagine what like the radio shows must have been on during those days. That in one day you take Gaza, in the second day you take half of Sinai, and in the next 4 days the war is over. Like even a week didn't pass for Israel to take out how many was it? Three, four nations. So yeah, Israel needs to show, and Israel has shown the world again and again how capable of it is. Even recently, even in recent, I mean, even the Qatar strike or the Yemeni strike showed the world that is what Israel is capable of. Completely taking out the Iranian air defense, destroying Hezbollah, uh, doing all of that with such a small nation. Israel has showed it, but Israel has to show the world not that it is capable of doing that, but that it won't stop until those nations are finished. And this is something the world hasn't seen. This idea of Israel will start this and it will finish the job.
Yeah. Um, from time to time we talk about internal Israeli politics, and I haven't looked at the polls for a while, but it looked for a while like a party led by Naftali Bennett would win an election, and there was talks about him and Avigdor Lieberman uniting to form a party. And from what I read in the papers, the reason that hasn't happened is because the two of them can't decide who will lead the party. So, they'll end up splitting the votes and maybe losing the election that way. This very much is much more likely to be the case with such an alliance. Yeah, so Egypt obviously says let's have such an alliance, but we will lead that alliance, and it's saying that to Saudi Arabia. So I don't know how keen Saudi Arabia would be to kind of say, yeah, we'll take a back seat, and we'll still have to contribute and put our soldiers' lives at risk in a war against Israel, which is doing well enough militarily, certainly against the countries that decide to participate in attacks against them. So Yeah, it's always difficult. And remember, even whether it's in dictatorships or in free countries, the people who go into politics typically are not the best and brightest. Those people usually go and actually create something of worth somewhere in the world. And next month, we're going to have a conference where people who have done that have gone out there and created amazing things in the world and are doing that as we speak. Will be the speakers, people who came into whatever it is they're doing, inspired by objectivism or fueled philosophically by objectivism, by Ayn Rand's philosophy, will be speaking. All the speakers are going to be people who have uh, done something in the world, and are yeah, in most cases business people, and they're going to be speaking, they're going to be coaching, and you're going to have direct access to them. This is going to be a conference like no other. Make sure, by the way, if people who watch this channel know Jonathan Honig, know Michael Kaufman, know Mark Pellegrino, they will all be speaking. Alex Epstein will also be speaking, as will many other people, some of whom you probably haven't heard of and really should. And this is part of what this conference aims to do. So, yeah, make sure you join us next month in Orange County, California at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. Link is in the chat and in the description. And if you're listening to this show rather than watching it, it is objectivism.co.uk. Get your tickets now. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the polls right now in Israel, and it's, I mean, looking kind of funny. Like, pretty much even if Bennett wanted to form some sort of coalition, it looks like he would still need the Arab parties or the new formed Democrats. I'm not sure. Did the Arabs decide if they're gonna like run all together again or not?
I don't know. It's the Arab NATO of Israeli politics. So it's happened in the past, and then they broke up and got back together again. It's like a very tedious sitcom, but with murder. So or support for murder. So yeah, I don't know where they currently stand.
Yeah, so even then you would just need yeah, I have no idea. Well, we still have a long time before an election happens, so it might change since even in the since October 7 it has changed a lot, but yeah, obviously the current opposition wouldn't be anything better when it comes to Israel, at the very least on the fighting a war. Hopefully, we won't be when the next election happens. Hopefully, we won't still be dealing with a war. I don't think that can happen. I think either we'll be very disappointed because Israel has gave up on Gaza, or we will be disappointed for other reasons. Unfortunately, it's not looking positively in the aspects of Gaza occupation. Um, yeah, nothing else to say. The only that I don't think this would happen. Again, I don't think Saudi Arabia even has a desire to really fight directly against Israel. Israel has no desire to strike within Saudi Arabia. Israel wants Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords. So I don't think Saudi Arabia has any. And Saudi Arabia generally, I mean, a lot of its population hates Israel, and some of its leadership that not necessarily want Israel, but like everybody, nobody really cares about the Palestinians. It's just a convenient way to like fight Israel. So again, even with Saudi Arabia, they more care about Iran than Israel.
Yeah, hatred of Israel, hatred of Jews, by the way, they don't say Zionist or Israeli, they say Jew. Hatred of Jews is the consensus in every Muslim country, not just the Arab countries. There's no country which isn't overwhelmingly anti-Semitic, where there's a Muslim majority. But enough about them. One more thing about the Irreplaceable Spark conference that I should have said when I was pitching it is Leonard Peikoff, who I mentioned, who will be giving the last talk. It will be a talk about ragtime music. Will also be signing books. That is for VIP ticket holders only. So you do have to buy a VIP ticket to get your book signed by Leonard Peikoff. It's not a cheap ticket, but you get a bunch of other things, including three one-on-one coaching sessions with three of the coaches, two additional networking events, a workshop on investing with Jonathan Honig, a panel on starting and running a business with four people who have done that, and unlimited access to the VIP lounge with food throughout both days. So yeah, again, make sure you sign up. And if you're not convinced yet, the Sunday Spark starts next, where Daniel will be interviewing James Valiant. You know James Valiant, again, as a commentator on this channel. There's a lot you don't know. James will be coaching at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference, so make sure you tune in to the Sunday Spark, which follows this show, and we will be back tomorrow with the Daily Objective and the reality show. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you tomorrow.